unlike anyone else, because I'm in so many different cities with so many different people, I get to see the common denominator of what people are listening for. So a lot of speakers are always worried about, what are you listening to? Are they listening to me? And this is what I have to say. Like, I get that, but what I like to do is learn what you're listening for and then leverage the relationships I have, the research that I do, the understanding from all the research I've done for all these years, so that I can help more people that are listening for what you're listening for. So it only works if you guys ask questions. I always say 0 to 1 takes as much time as 1 to 100, especially in questions. I do have a lot of purple people that are planted with questions, so if someone that hasn't been here doesn't have one, rocket plan. So does anyone have a question to start other than my team? Okay, what is rocket plan? So every once in a while I come upon an entrepreneur that resonates with me. And it's usually someone that has gone from rags to riches, or they have a mindset, heart set, hand set like I have. And I met this guy from Croatia who literally didn't know any English. He was embarrassed to work. He worked at Dairy Queen so he could live. He was too embarrassed to work the window at Dairy Queen because he didn't know English well enough. So he hid at the grill. And from there, he built his own over 100 employee restoration company. And then from there, realized where all the real problems were and created a SaaS solution that has thousands of clients that is literally changing the world, that creates a whole bunch of pain. If any of you have ever had a flood, a fire, it's extremely emotionally awful, right, Michael? And the process sucks, from the documentation of what happened to submitting to the adjusters to getting paid what was there. But it also sucks for the contractor who needs to get paid too. And so it's a shitty situation, and Rocket Plan solves all of that. It's a profit center. And so I look for entrepreneurs and solutions, because I believe entrepreneurs are not only changing the world, they're saving the world. Like, I think we all should recycle, but I know that the real solution is the entrepreneur that turns plastic into food or plastic into energy, something awesome, you know. And so it's important that we have sustainable practices, so you give entrepreneurs enough time to do what we do, which is save the world. We also sometimes, with what we save the world with, will create new problems for us to save, but that's a whole nother story. So that's what Rocket Plan is, and that's why all my purple people are here. That's why we're here, and I thank them for supporting my brand and allowing me a platform to speak on entrepreneurship and value and service and profit. All right, next question.
Tell us about your brand and your company. Like, how big is it? How many people?
Sure.
Like, all of that.
So I've been very strategic and also intentional about building my brand and my company. So the first thing is, what is my brand? My brand is my essence. I believe my essence and your essence are a combination of three things. Taking inventory of what your skills are, what your knowledge is of two things, knowledge of who and knowledge of what, and then my desire. And that, I take daily inventory and daily practices to utilize my essence, which is my brand. Now, building a company around your brand is the same as I've built huge companies before that had huge exits. But for me, I was much more intentional in doing so. So the way that I built this business is by now creating 4 business units led by people who have grown up with me. So they all started as interns, and they run separate business units. And right now, it's that one person has 7 people below them. And then each of those people have interns that they mentor and teach. So in total, approximately, because you're always shifting in this area, about 32 people, 28, 4 leaders. I call them my horse people, horse men and women. And the president of my company is a woman, which is why I'm so proud of her. She just had her first baby, just got back. And so my goal, though, is I'm always, right, what I do today in a trajectory where I think I want to be, is to elevate the 4 people into a position where I am, elevate the 7 people horizontally in the position the 4 are in, and have each of those 7 have 7 beneath them, and everyone have interns as well. If I do that, we'll be over in EBITDA, over $100 million in profit, which will all, once again, in a compassionate capitalist way, empower more of the same and to give there. I have, velocity is my thing, but I'd like to do it by the time my son graduates high school, which is 5 years. And timing-wise, we do it as fast as we can by continually doing our best, learning lessons, and having fun. And so that's how I built the business. But I think the bigger lesson for everyone, because I believe in personal branding for everyone, whether you do it internally or externally, to capture that is super important. It'll be the future. Those communities will be invaluable. Those that understand communities are built by your own essence and your own frequency. So I teach people how to find their skills, their knowledge, and their desire, and how to develop that as well. No matter if you're in the restoration business, financial planning, music, sports, insurance, law. It's amazing. Most people on earth today do not and cannot know the job they're going to have in 5 years. So I've built the way that I teach people in the context of there's no way you'll know really what you're doing in 5 years. So detach from the outcome, and let's focus in on what we're doing today. Thank you. Good questions. Next. Come on, you came all the way here. Yes, in the back, Oscar. Yeah. So this is a very common, we talk about cliche, people talk about getting in their own way. Anybody ever feel like they get in their own way? Perfect. I have a different way of describing that today than I used to. And so if we're getting in the way of our potential, then I like to shift the paradigm and say that I am already my potential. What am I doing to interfere with the potential by knowing I already am? So a lot of people are creating more resistance, more interference by thinking they have to get more of everything. More happy, more healthy, more wealthy, more worthy are the 4 that I work within. I start out in a premise that I am part of a source of faith, that I am part of everything. So I'm part of potential, I'm part of truth, I'm part of God, the universe, I'm part of Jesus, Muhammad, Joseph Smith, Buddha. I'm part of an abundant source, an infinite abundant source, a unified abundant infinite source that is omniscient. It's all-knowing because it's everything, and it has more than enough of everything for everyone. And so in the premise of my source of faith is this omniscient, all-powerful source. Define it as you can, religiously, spiritually, philosophically, or theoretically. I personally believe my faith stems from one simple premise, and it's mathematical in nature. It's my best option in life. If I'm going to have faith and hope of reaching my potential, then my best option is going to be to believe in something bigger than me, an omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing source that loves me more than my mom, that's protecting and promoting me. Simply. So I believe when someone tells me I believe that Jesus Christ is our Savior and knows everything, is omniscient, all-powerful, loves me more than my mom and protects me and promotes me, I'm like, yes. And this person tells me it's Buddha, and this person tells me it's God, and this person tells me it's a pencil. I'm like, yes, yes. Because the only thing I can think of is that's the best option to live your life. Why? Because when shit happens, and it does every day, you're protected and promoted. You're not interfering it with doubt and fear that you're not protected and promoted. So now you're punished. And I know one thing about physics, what you pay attention to and what you give intention to equal the coincidences in your life. And so if I'm going to pay attention to what's missing, what I don't have, being a victim, not enough, then I'm going to not have, be a victim, etc. Instead, I have this best option, unproven. In fact, it's so unproven, at meetups, this is a small crowd, but I've been speaking in front of thousands of people and millions of people watch my video. I challenge everyone. I don't care. Give me a better option and I'll believe in it. I'm just challenging you. You can call it God, Jesus, Mom. I don't care what you call it. But you tell me something better to believe in this lifetime than something bigger than me that's omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing, protecting and promoting me, loves me more than my mom. I'll believe in it. But so far, nobody's texted me, nobody's emailed me, nobody's come up with a better idea that gets you to where you want to be or better than that faith. And so what do I do around that faith is I create practices, value practices, gratitude, empathy, accountability, effective communication, daily practices of activity to utilize the man-made construct of time. What do I want today in the trajectory of what I think I want in the future by giving the meaning of the defining moments, setbacks, failures, mistakes of my past, by finding the light, the love, and the lessons, by knowing I'm protected and promoting to get there better, faster, aggregated exponentially. And so through the context of understanding my best option of faith and daily practices, I now can get mathematically better at utilizing energy, which aggregates, compounds exponentially, and accelerates towards what I want. And guess what? Tomorrow when the clock starts over, I say the same thing. Oh wow, today my family's in town. Oh wow, today my plane is late. Oh wow, today there's COVID. Oh wow, today I have a flat tire. Oh wow, today my child is hurting. Therefore, all I ask myself is, considering all of these things that are going on, the weather is too hot, my aunt showed up, this is what I want today. And I have a weighted value that is so narrowly focused into the present by leveraging man-made constructive time to an infinite future, by giving the light, the love, and the lessons, the meaning to my infinite past, in order to accelerate my best options, opportunities and touches of favor. And as that aggregates, what happens is all of these great things happen. Do I get kicked in the face? Do I get mad, angry, upset, separate, inferior, superior? Do I have an ego, need to be offended, need to be right? Every day. Every day, 8 times on average, just like you. You know what the difference in my life, Oscar, is that instead of interfering with my life for days, weeks, months, and years, by having those needs, I have a practice. I identify the fear of the past or fear of the future. I see what ego I'm prescribing to fear, because that's human nature. When you're afraid, the body says, I'm going to prescribe a solution to fear. It's called the ego. So you're going to fight it, or you're going to flee from it, or you're going to feed on it with addiction, or you're going to create and propagate it, or called fornicate. So it's going to create a legacy of it, right? So with fear, I'm pragmatic. I've had this feeling before. This is called anger. I've had this feeling before. This is called worry. I've had this feeling before. It's called resentment. Oh, that's a fear of the past, resentment. Oh, need to be offended? That's a fear of the past. Or worry? That's a fear of the future. Anxiety? Fear of the future. I've felt this before. I'm 55 years old. I've felt it a lot. So instead of trying to resist it, knowing human nature is automatically going to prescribe to an identified fear, ego, what I do now, instead of fighting it, resisting it, going over it, under it, through it, around it, lie to it, manipulate it, cheat it, or deny it. Some of these may resonate with some of you. I just say, surrender. I stop. Okay, I know you fear, and I know you ego. I'm not going to play this game anymore. I'm not going to accelerate in the wrong direction. I'm just going to stop, breathe. I'm going to remind myself of the source of faith. I'm going to recollect myself with my faith. I'm going to remember myself with my faith. Breathing, and when I feel at ease, in the flow again, not interfering, then I say to myself, I'm going to now roll into the trajectory of what I think I want by utilizing my values and the daily practices to get there in an aggregated exponential way. And when we talk about detaching from outcomes, I want outcomes that are called better than I can think of outcomes, but they're not what I think of. I'm going to repeat that. I do not attach my emotions to the outcome, but I want them. I'm working, or my activities are directed towards outcomes that are better than I can think of. That doesn't mean that other people aren't going to perceive them as worse than, including me. So take a relationship that fails, or take a bankruptcy of losing over $100 million. Does not sound like what I wanted. But I'm not omniscient, all powerful. I don't live and understand infinite time. So eventually, 15 years later in 2023, I can stand in front of 100 people and say, I just got to tell you, the meaning I give my bankruptcy, the light, the love, and the lessons I found in that, which I didn't find at the time when it happened, and I had to tell my mom, not only did I go bankrupt, but I lost her house because my name was on her title. But today, it saved my life, saved my marriage at the very least. It changed me forever. It has allowed me to help millions of people and someday billions. It's allowed me to help today millions of people, at least planting seeds under trees that I may never sit under, but changing their lives. I can go on an airplane and the stewardess writes me a note, you changed my life. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge. I can walk in the lobby and people stop me and say, I just want to thank you for helping me change my life in the trajectory of where I want to be. That doesn't happen unless this quote unquote punishment of losing everything. You give meaning to the defined moments of your past. I've seen people give meaning to historical relevances in their past that have destroyed their future. Oh, what about the French-American War? Oh, what about, this happened in 1876? Literally. That's not the meaning I give it. I give it, the Holocaust, I give it the meaning that Viktor Frankl gave it. Think how many people he's changed their lives. And I could imagine how horrible he felt when he was in a concentration camp. But he knew what I know. He's protected and promoted. That this isn't punishment. This is promotion and protection. Is it horrible? Yeah. Was my bankruptcy horrible? I get choked up thinking about it. Was it horrible for my mom? Yes. But it wasn't punishment. It may have been horrible, but it wasn't punishment. Next question. Yes.
I'm curious how did you come up with the idea of the 5 daily practice?
So all of my ideas are channeled and developed and evolved. So when you pay attention and give intention to things, like having first concept, that daily activity aggregates, compounds, and exponentially creates the outcomes that you want. Awesome. Maybe you can ask if we can turn that off. We're looking at it. So, like anything else, it unravels in itself. So when I started understanding physics, so energy, behavior, time, money are energy. What I learned from physics is energy has 3 characteristics. 1, it aggregates on itself. It attracts more like energy. 2, it exponentially grows. It creates exponential outcomes. And then 3, it accelerates. And so I said to myself, well, that means that, for example, anything I have intention to every day, thinking, saying, doing, feeling, and believing, every day is going to give me a greater result. So 2 minutes a day would be worth more than 2 hours on a Saturday of anything. Working out, time with my mom, studying, whatever it would be. So the idea of daily practices stem from the understanding of energy. And then I started to realize, okay, how do I know what to practice every day? Well, I need to know what's important to me, not what's important to you or what's missing or what I don't have. So the first question was, in the daily practice, every day, I'm going to ask myself, what do I want? And then I realized that it's better to know what I want in the trajectory of what I think I want, and then came the meaning of the thing. Then I realized, okay, most people think of their lives as nothingness. They live their lives, excuse my body language, most people live their lives like tubes. Food in, food out. That's their whole life. Food in, food out. In order to take nothingness and make it a possibility, the minute I started thinking daily what I wanted, everything I wanted became a possibility, which created more inspiration. Then I took the second daily practice and I said, wow, when I take what I want today in a trajectory of where I think I want to be, I can ask myself, who can I help with what I want. And then I realized it wasn't just who I could help with what I wanted, who could help me. And when I knew who I could help and who could help me, my possibility took a mathematical advancement, became a probability. So I took another level of inspiration and said, hey, it's probable what I want is going to happen because I figured out who it's going to help and who can help me. Those are the two ways to statistically increase your success. The minute you know who it's going to help, increases your success. And when you know who can help you, fastest way to get to where you want to be, find someone that's already there, asking for help. Then became the third daily practice, know how I'm going to do it. That's where faith came in and time. The Ferocious Buddha brand that I built about this section of how you got to be ferocious today with your time to be productive, accessible, and gracious, to think, say, and do, and feel, and believe in their trajectory. So how I was going to do it is to be aware of my time. How can I be intentional and intentional about my time? By knowing it's how active can I be. So here's what's interesting, and this just is a recent understanding of how. Most people don't understand how I get so much done in a day. Every single day, 7 days a week. And I started looking at it because I'm like, why are they so amazed with it? And all I started thinking was, number one, sleep. Like, I recover and access information better than anyone I know, but I've had a coach to help me take care of my sleep for 17 years. Once again, the practice. But so I sleep 7 hours a day, give or take. I'm up at 4 a.m. Pacific time, and I have an unwinding routine, but 7 hours is automatically off the charts because that activity is most important. It has the most impact on every single area of my life, physical, spiritual, mental, etc. So I now live a 17-hour day as far as my conscious activity goes. Now, approximately every day, I have 3 hours of non-negotiables. I have a minimum amount of time on my health, a minimum of time with my family. She gives me 2 minutes a day, by the way. I get 30 minutes with my 13-year-old son. But about 3 hours, which includes the family and finance and study and time and all those things. So when you take 7 hours and 3 hours, that's 10 hours. That leaves, believe it or not, 14 hours a day of activities that I get to do with what is important to me in a trajectory of where I think I want to be. Now, if you think I'm active, productive, accessible, and gracious, I just utilize the 14 hours. I utilize it, number one, by identifying the greatest interference to productivity, which is fear, and the ego-based projection or subscription or prescription to fear. So that's the number one way that my 14 hours is utilized better than anyone else's. Just because I am in the minutes and moments of interfering in a day instead of days, weeks, months, and years, hours and minutes or whatever, when you get mad because someone cut you off. I was driving back from Santa Barbara yesterday, being very productive, accessible, shows, coaching, my wife. We had a beautiful weekend at one of the most amazing resorts in the world, and somebody cut us off. And my initial reaction was calling them number one, because it was on my side. And then I turned to my wife, also frustrated with her, right, because I'm on that side. And then I reminded myself, remembered and recollected, I'm human, and I was really scared. So I prescribed anger, and I need to be offended to it immediately. I had no control over that. Why? Because I'm human. Every time I'm afraid, what I'm built to do is to prescribe a ego-based consciousness that interferes with that 14 hours I've been given every day to be productive, accessible, and gracious. So immediately, I put down the number one sign, put my hands together like this, shut my eyes, and breathe through my nose, out through my mouth. And in less than a minute, I was at ease. I reminded, remembered, and recollected, okay, I got this to do now. I don't have time to waste on this. Instead of cutting them back off, yelling, you got to be more careful. Well, you know, the grave is full of people who have the right of way, right? Yeah. Like all these. How many times do we do that a day? Figure out for you, sleep, then non-negotiable time, and then realize I got this much time to do whatever the F I want, and I certainly don't want to interfere with my potential of where I want to be or better. That's how you do it, and you keep getting better and better because it's aggregating, compounding, and I'm even amazed some days, like, it's like, wow, I was so good at identifying the interference today. I used to take me a week when people still thought I was productive to do what I did today. And at one time, maybe even a month. And I know it takes other people years to do what I do in a day. And it keeps aggregating and compounding. All right, next question. What's up, Mike?
Other than measurement,
Yeah.
how do we make sure that we're not falsely manipulating ourselves, that we think we're going in the right direction?
Great question. How do we stop ourselves from falsely lying to ourselves and manipulating that we're going the right way? So there's 5 things I look at for my own life. I've also made it the incentives of my business. 1, productivity, which in a business is sales. So I'm quantitative looking at how productive I am. 2, asking for help. Asking for help is an indicator of radical humility, also a baseline to understand that we're not, the third one, lying to ourselves. 4, being a student of my calendar. I believe that time is the dependent variable of all matter. I truly believe that time is the dependent variable of all matter. All matter exists in man-made constructs, subjective and objective matter, it exists in all man-made constructs. So time, so for me, I want to go immediately to quantify whether I'm lying to myself, asking for help, being productive, and utilize time to say I'm a student of my time. So I'm always looking to see, you know, how much time did I spend in anger? How much time did I spend in resentment? Because time's the only quantifiable measurement to say, hey, I'm getting better at not feeling guilty. How do you know that? Well, because yesterday I spent 4 hours and 15 minutes being guilty, and today only 3 hours feeling guilty. Quantitative analysis. That'll stop you from lying to yourself.
So basically, measurement and just being really aware of it.
Yeah, and so, you know, productivity or sales in business, asking for help, student of the calendar or time, and then how accessible and available am I to others and to my faith? Right, so how engaged, accessible, available am I to my faith? That's another quantifiable measurement as well that I utilize. And then that determines the 5th one, which is honest to yourself. Calling yourself on your bullshit. I had to have help with this because I am genetically and energetically, embarrassing enough, full of shit. Like John Lovett sent me a birthday message and he's like, well, I have full of shit-itis. And I'm thinking, maybe not only do I look like you, but now I'm genetically and energetically related to you because I have this ability to lie to myself. And then, of course, it's easy to lie to others. And so the closest people around me, I have encouraged them, Mia's really good at this, without my permission, of calling me on my bullshit. In fact, one of my favorite moments of my life was here at the Wynn. I was down at that wonderful restaurant down there, and I brought very high net worth, important clients to dinner with my wife. And I said, they're like, we love the Blue Wire Studios. They're amazing. And I'm like, well, if you love this one, you should see my studios in Orange County where I film my other TV show. And everyone at the table was like, whoa. Like, Dave Meltzer is super excited, you know, successful. You're amazing, Dave Meltzer, you know, blah, blah. And my ego's like, ba, 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 ba. And my wife's like,
Kicking under the table.
that's, no, not even kicking under the table. No, that's not David's studio. He's a small partner in that studio. That's not his. I don't know why he would tell you it's his. And I'm like, mother.
Kicking her under the table.
Oh, I would, because I was proud of myself because my initial reaction was to kick her under the table. And then to scream at her when we got out of dinner, like, this is our livelihood. Why would you diminish my character, my credibility in front of like these super important things? Instead, I remembered, reminded, and recollected that I'm genetically and energetically flawed and that this is one of my flaws. And the reason I love her so much is I asked her, no matter what situation, to call me out so I can fix it, so I can start healing it. So may not be this lifetime that it's all gone, but I'm putting myself into the next lifetime. And with her, I can exponentially get better at it. And so I stopped at the table after being completely embarrassed and angry and all the things that go through if you've been married before when your wife embarrasses you. And I breathed and I said, this is why I love my wife. Because I don't own that studio. I have a small portion and more a partnership in the studios. And I don't know why I wanted to impress you other than you are all important to me. And I hope you take it as a compliment that I wanted to impress you, but I hope you take it more of a compliment that this lady still wants to be married to me. Because that truly talks about who I am, because she's with me all the time. And I just want to thank her in front of all of you publicly for calling me on my bullshit, because I don't want to be a bullshitter. I wanted you to know that I'm trying my best to be honest in all situations. And I thanked her and kissed her, and those relationships were just enhanced. And they all were asking me, how do you do that in your marriage? Can you coach me on that? We don't need you to be a business advisor. We don't care about that. I want that. So, yes.
Speaking about coaching, you were successful. Things were going your way. What drove you to work with a coach, and what value did you get from it?
Yes, great question. I still have coaches today. And I wouldn't be where I am without mentorship and coaching and teaching. And I believe there's three components. Not everyone can do all three really well. I work really hard at it. So a coach is someone that brings the best out of me. So I always want to have coaches around me that'll bring the best out of me. A mentor is someone who sits in the situation I want to be in and gives me directions. A teacher is someone that can teach you how. I can give you directions to a whole bunch of things that I know, but my weakest area is having the patience and the intelligence of teaching how I do what I do. And I'm getting much better at it, but part of the reason that I keep things simple and spend my time on, figuring things out to make them simple is because the simple things to teach are much easier. So to talk about 5 daily practices instead of like some cumbersome physics, quantum physics, or metaphysics things that are truly the core of what I'm teaching simply is a lot easier. It's really important to have all three. It's the fastest way to get to where you want to be. It's not only the accountability of it, it's the ease of it. And so immediately when I screwed up my life, financially, family, and faith-wise, I got a coach for my financial, I got a coach for my family, and I got a coach for my faith. And it was people that were alive and dead, people like Mr. Wynn to help me, people like Napoleon Hill and Bob Proctor and Blaine Bartlett. All of these people that I've surrounded, Jack Canfield, Jim Quick, Warren Moon, all of these different people were teaching me, and they were bringing the best out of me. And even my wife, like I said, right? She brings the best out of me still today. And that's what you want. And so that's why I coach, the majority of the people I coach are for free. I've been training people like this in meetups and free Friday trainings for almost 24 years, doing it for free. I have groups that some of you belong to. They can come in, ask me anything. Every Monday I'm there. I've had one-on-one, which is now because of very hard because I have a wait list, and then I have business advisory. But I couldn't do all of that without having my coaches still today. The number one coach, if you want to start, who should I get a coach with? I think it's a sleep coach. And I'll tell you why. Sleep has more to do with everything that you do than anything else you can do. It's that simple. And it's also, as far as being able to have an impact, it's also something that most people don't do. Most people go to bed at night more and wake up more tired the next day. And they receive no information at all. And if I can encourage you to study sleep, whether it's virtual mentorship, YouTube, or actually hiring someone like I have, because I travel and want to start with sleep. And then move on to what's next important to you. So I don't even need to know your values to tell you to have a sleep coach first. After that, I would need to know your values. Like, my relationship's most important to me. My finances are most importantly. My health, my nutrition, stretching, balance, they can all go after sleep to me. And then we can find the best way to learn about that. There's nothing wrong. It just takes more time to use virtual mentorship. Course in Miracles, Napoleon Hill, Wayne Dyer, the Bhagavad Gita, the Lao Tzu, like these are mentors of mine that I sometimes only a minute or so, but I'll read a lesson or read a quote, or other things I spend, a minimum of an hour sometimes, weighted balance in a day of having virtual mentorship of some kind. But when it came to like social media, Gary Vaynerchuk was my mentor because he seemed to know what the F he was talking about. Does he know about sports agency? No. That's how I met him, because he's smart enough to ask for mentorship from me because I do know what I'm talking about when it comes to sports agentry. And I know what I'm talking about, and I know how to mentor someone in being a sports agent or running a sports agency. But I knew nothing about podcasts or social media or Instagram or TikTok and et cetera, but for finding the best coaches. Now what's funny is people use me. Mostly middle-aged mutant turtles who want to do what I do, but very few young people, can align with what I know, but some do. Yes, Michael.
Don and I were
By the way, if you don't know Michael Unbroken, you don't follow Michael Unbroken, you don't listen to his podcast, you're missing out. I will tell you that I'm blessed to be on a multitude of shows, and what he brings to being on my Office Hours show is incredible, and just articulation of what most resonates with me. So if you're aligned with my frequency, this guy's on my frequency, and he says that a lot of times we're saying the exact same thing in such different ways and such different experiences. It's super cool because I know that some of the people are like, what the hell did Dave Meltzer just say? And then he'll say the same thing, and everyone's like, oh yeah, I get it now. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's an honor to get to do it. And most of the time I'm like, what the hell did Dave Meltzer say? So I get it. Don and I were having a conversation in the studio, and this word trust came up multiple times. Like, how did you meet David? Oh, Randy Garn. I trust Randy. Randy trusts David. I know David. David knows Randy. I trust Randy because of David. I think trust is the most important thing outside of respect and building relationships and communities. That way you can effectively and exponentially impact the world. How do you trust people?
Yeah, this took me a long time, and I learned from a football player this thing, trust and vet.
Yeah, trust but verify.
Trust, vet, verify. And what I started learning was in the context of vetting, asking uncomfortable questions, and verifying, taking the time to verify or check out what your answers were, is all trust. See, if we truly trust what you're saying, then there shouldn't be any problem to vet it or verify it. And I can't tell you how many times this probably will resonate with all you. In my life, I knew somebody was bullshitting me. They said something like, my revenue was up 300% last year, and I didn't ask, well, how much was your revenue last year? And then what happens is I go ahead and do the deal, even though I'm being lied to, manipulated, cheated, oversold, back end sold. And what happens? The deal gets screwed up because they're liars, cheaters, manipulators, oversellers. They shouldn't be trusted because I didn't vet, I didn't trust them enough to ask them uncomfortable questions or verify the answers because I didn't trust. If I trusted them, I would be able to do that.
Is it trusting them or is it trusting yourself?
Both. I think it's absolutely trusting ourselves and understanding the difference between intelligence, intuition, and inspiration as well. Like a lot of times we rely on our intelligence, ignore our intuition, or we don't understand intuition isn't answers, it's awareness. See, once I realized that when my intuition is interplaying in my life, that all it's saying is, hey, pay attention. It may not be pay attention at this moment, right? Go to the casino. It's a perfect example of intuition. Someone in the next hour will be playing craps and they'll roll a hard 8 and they'll instantly say, I knew it. No, what happened was somewhere before that roll happened, could be 6 rolls before, 8 rolls before, 1 roll before, you had an intuitive thought that it's going to be a hard 8. And then when it hit, You then identified the outcome to the awareness, but you forgot the linear time frame that existed between the two. Intelligence is just practical understanding of utilization of what you know, what you're finding out, the verification side of it. And inspiration is truly the truth. In order to facilitate intelligence, intuition, and inspiration, we need to ask hard, uncomfortable questions. Trusting ourselves in our intelligence, inspiration, and intuition, and trusting the other person that they're being truthful. Who's at fault when someone's lying to you? You or them? You are, because you didn't ask the questions. You didn't, and look, what if the person was lying to you and you catch them in the lie and they say to you, hey, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to over-exaggerate that, or I didn't do the math correctly, or there's a whole bunch of things you can find out about somebody by catching them by asking hard questions too. It doesn't mean it's all over, just like my marriage wasn't all over when my wife caught me not telling the truth or exaggerating. In fact, it built more trust between us, especially with the way that I answered it. And it created more trust with the people around me. Like, this dude is a good dude. I can't believe he said that. I could see it in their eyes, I'm not sure I would do that. But he must really be working on being honest, knowing that all of us aren't honest all the time. We all lie to ourselves, which means we lie to others, right? And there's still things that are so ingrained in you. I found just recently, by working through all this, one of the incidences, defining moments of my life, was when I was 7 years old. Single mom, 6 kids. She worked 2 jobs, packed my dinner in a paper bag. Unbelievable mom, sacrificed or invested everything into her children, is a better way to put it. And when I was 7, I stole money out of my mom's purse. Within an hour, we went to the grocery store, and she didn't have enough money for the groceries. I don't know if it was $17 or $14 or whatever I took. I still am getting choked up right now because I'm working through what that has meant to me of who I am. Now, I can justify it. I was 7 years old, just like when you stole the pack of gum and your mom made you put it back. But this was a little different than having to put back a pack of gum.
Oh, yeah.
Because at a young age, it's a very hard thing, still. Because at my core, I know how human I am. I also didn't realize it at that time that there was an energetic and genetic inheritance that I need to break so that my children can witness and understand, so that they don't have the same challenges, knowing that at least genetically, but not energetically, they're inheriting it from me. Because energetically, they haven't, because my wife has such a greater hold on it than I do, and I've worked on it for so long. But they're still gonna have the genetic side. And so, trusting is asking hard, uncomfortable questions until you can see what you perceive to be the truth and verify it to the best of your ability. Then you're good. Now you're just in the lessons and light side of it, even if you made a mistake. All right.
Such thing as too much analyzing or too
Yeah,
many questions?
yeah. So great question. Is there too much analyzing, too many questions? Absolutely. That's where this whole relativity, it's like bleeding and feeding. People ask me, do you fire everybody that bleeds you? No. Do you feed everybody that feeds you? No. It's determined upon the relativity of the person I'm dealing with. So my mom bleeds me more than she feeds me now. But the relativity of my mom is so high that she could bleed me every minute of the day, and I'm cool with it. The same thing with analyzing. How relative is the decision or circumstance or event that you're analyzing? Then you can determine in the quantitative measurement of time, how many minutes am I going to give this? Right? I've seen people sit in front of a menu for 30 minutes. That's over-analyzing as far as I am concerned, because what I decide to eat is not that important to me. I'm okay if it is. If you've already done a priority analysis of, hey, you know what? This meal is one of the most important things in my life. Take a half an hour. Right?
So maybe going into it with a lot more attention.
Yeah. All right, one more question, and then hopefully you all will be enjoying me in a picture. And I'm more than happy to give books and sign them too. Yes, sir.
What helps
diversify or change your mindset to go from like six figures to millions and multiple millions?
Great. So I think everyone has a financial thermostat. I really do. And I worked really hard. My financial thermostat was always about 100 million, which was way better than anyone I was around in my circumstance. But when I got there, I realized I didn't have any clue. Like, I would be lying to myself. When I said, hey, I'm gonna make $1 billion someday, there's nothing behind it. If I told you when I was, 5 or 6, I'm gonna be a millionaire, there's no doubt. When I was in my 20s, I'm gonna be worth over 100 million. It was the energy, everything was aligned. But anytime I went above that, it was like, how are you gonna do that? And so for me, even with empowering over 1 billion people, it didn't make any reality to me until I figured, okay, considering my skills, knowledge, and desire, am I capable of empowering 1,000 people like you in my life to empower 1,000 people to empower 1,000 people? Do I know my values, daily practices, and execution model well enough to make it your own and allow you to articulate it to someone else to make their own, etc.? And I believe that. Knowing that I'm a bag of beliefs. Everything I believe is indicative of what I do, say, think, and feel. All of those aggregate together to actually create the coincidences through attention and intention. And so for me, I work and connect the dots backwards from where I think I want to be, like a billionaire, or to empower over 1 billion people. And then I connect the dots backwards, aligned with my skills, knowledge, and desire. So where I used to get confused is like, oh, you can manifest anything. Well, I want to dunk a basketball. Well, considering my skills, my knowledge, and my desire, and putting all three of those together, it's not going to happen in this lifetime. But because I believe in infinite time, it doesn't mean that I shouldn't spend a minimum of 5 minutes a day in this lifetime practicing dunking a basketball. Because as I believe in infinite time, that's going to be genetically and energetically inherited, and I might, in my next life, have better skills, knowledge, and desire directed towards the attention and intention that I gave in this journey or this lifetime. And this is a really interesting play when we look at people like my desire to play football with the skills, knowledge, and desire that I had. It's still probably one of the closest things I've ever come to my potential. And that's because I paid attention and gave intention and had huge desire since the day I held a football. Now, will anyone ever read about my football playing abilities, accolades, and acumen? Not even close. I used to tell people I was an average Division III college football player. I recently have been with my head coach, and he told me that was an exaggeration. So now I gotta actually tell people I was like below average, but I was on the team and I did get to play, and maybe my senior year I was average because I ended up playing and being a captain, but probably not because of my extraordinary athletic skill, more because of my inspirational, true skill that I had to the team of being a great teammate and a great leader off the field and when I was on the field as well. So everybody, please reach out to me. I know we have a VIP dinner tomorrow night. If you want to come to that, talk to Nick. Books are available. I'll sign them, send them to you. Email me if you need anything. I have Friday trainings. And I do have a community, a text, which most of you are in, but we're doing so many things now. If you want to stay abreast of them, just join that text community because it will alert you when I'm with Tom Brady in Mexico City or Drew Brees in San Diego or Joe Dispenza in Santa Barbara, all the cool stuff we're doing. A lot of people, it bums me out when they're like, if I would have known you were in Vegas, I would have come. So you encourage other people that you know to join us, unless you're Mike back there. I just want to point him out. Mike literally shows up to every single thing, every dinner, every meetup, travels the whole world. Well, we got some time still. I was going to tell him at this dinner. But, when I see things like this, and I know Mike's articulated to me that definitely the seeds I planted have changed his life. And thank you for always showing up. All right, let's take a picture.